Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS, presenting to you the daily quiz for 20th of December 2021. Let us begin and have a look at the first question for today. Which of the given statements with respect to UN Convention to combat desertification is or are incorrect? Number 1, it is the only convention stemming from a direct recommendation of the Rio Conference's Agenda 21. Number 2, it is the sole legally binding international agreement linking environment and development to sustainable land management. Number 3, the Global Environment Facility or GEF serves as a financial mechanism for UNCCD. What is the context? This article in the Hindu newspaper today talks about a study carried out on the climate and vegetation in the Thar Desert. This study is a part of the assessment of environmentally sensitive areas being carried out within the framework of the UN Convention to Combat Desertification or UNCCD. Since this article has a reference to UNCCD, we've taken up this question. What exactly is this UNCCD? As the name itself suggests, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification is a convention to improve the living conditions for people in drylands. It is to maintain and restore the land and soil productivity and to mitigate or reduce the effects of drought. And this convention was established back in the year 1994. Here, desertification means the degradation of land in arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid areas. So this convention, that is UNCCD, specifically addresses the arid areas, the semi-arid areas and the dry subhumid areas or the drylands. So the goal of this convention is to protect land from overuse and drought. Now let us go back to the question. In the year 1992, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, that is UNCED, or the so-called Rio Earth Summit recommended the UNCCD. Also, please remember that this is the only convention which is a result of the direct recommendation of the conference's Agenda 21. So, statement number 1 becomes correct. Coming to statement number 2. Yes, this is the only legally binding international agreement which links environment and development to sustainable land management. So statement number 2 is correct. Here we must know that the UNCCD collaborates closely with two other Rio conventions, that is Convention on Biological Diversity as well as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change or UNFCCC, because land, climate and biodiversity are very intimately interconnected. Now that we know statement number 1 and 2 are correct, at this stage we can eliminate option A and option C. Now this Global Environment Facility, which was established on the eve of 1992 Rio Earth Summit, acts as a financial mechanism for 5 environmental conventions and UNCCD is one of them. So statement number 3 becomes correct. Therefore, the right answer to our question would be option D, none of the above, because none of these statements are incorrect. Your task for today is to name the other 4 conventions to which the Global Environment Facility serves as a financial mechanism. Type your answers in the comment section below. Now let us move on to question number 2. Which among the following was the first military exercise between Indian and Vietnamese armies? Option A, Invitex. Option B, Lamitier. Option C, Winbacks. Option D, Ecuverin. What is the context? This article in the PIB today throws light upon India-Vietnam relations and hence we've taken this question. See, India and Vietnam are important factors of stability in the Indo-Pacific region. And also, Vietnam's role is very critical for India. It ranges from strategic importance to also energy security. Besides, the close relationship between these two countries is significant for the maintenance of strategic balance in Southeast Asia, which has been witnessing aggressive Chinese activities. So, in January 2018, India and Vietnam concluded their first bilateral military exercise, and this was called as Winbacks. Therefore, the right answer to our question would be option C, Winbacks. Moving on to question number 3. Which of the following statements best describes Operation Vijay? Option A, a codename assigned to the Indian Air Force's strike to support the ground troops in an Indian operation to push back the infiltrators from the Kargil sector. A codename given to the operation by the Indian peacekeeping forces to wrest control of Jaffna from the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam or LTTE. Option C, a code name assigned to the military operation by which Republic of India took control of the Portuguese Indian territories of Goa, Daman and Diu. Option D, a code name for the police operation in which the Indian Armed Forces invaded the state of Hyderabad and annexed the state to the Indian Union. What is the context? This article in today's PIB has a reference to the Goa Liberation Day and also Operation Vijay. See, we all know that Goa had been an important port for trade as well as military operations for the Portuguese. So even after India attained independence from the British rule, Portuguese did not liberate Goa. 14 years after independence, in the year 1961, the Portuguese rulers were made to surrender and Goa was liberated from their rule on the 19th of December. And during this liberation of Goa and Daman and Diu from the Portuguese, the tri-services of the Indian Armed Forces carried out the Operation Vijay, which was a military operation that began on 18th of December and concluded on the 19th of December 1961. Therefore, the right answer to our question would be option C. Now, some of you might be wondering why option A is not the right answer. Because the other Operation Vijay refers to the operation that was carried out during the Kargil War in the year 1999, and this was to push back the infiltrators from the Kargil sector. But the statement here is talking about the Operation Safed Sagar or Operation White Sea. And this was the code name given to the Indian Air Force's support to the ground troops during the Kargil War when Operation Vijay of 1999 was being carried out. Moving on to question number 4. Delft Island, often seen in news, is a part of option A, Vietnam, option B, Sri Lanka, option C, Maldives, option D, Australia. Why this question? This article here in the Hindu newspaper today highlights the fishermen issue between India and Sri Lanka, which is often seen in the news and has been discussed multiple times earlier in our news analysis. Now, this article also has a reference to Delft Island. Some places that are often in news become important from the prelims perspective, and therefore it is important for us to know its location. The Delft Island is a part of the Jaffna Island in Sri Lanka. It is located in the northwestern part of Sri Lanka in the Park Strait and is close to southern India. Please remember that this island is also called as Nedun Tivu Island. Therefore, the right answer to our question would be option B, Sri Lanka. Now let us take up a previous year question from Prelims paper 2016. There has been a persistent deficit budget year after year. Which action or actions of the following can be taken by the government to reduce the deficit? Number 1, reducing revenue expenditure. Number 2, introducing new welfare schemes. Number 3, rationalizing subsidies. Number 4, reducing import duty. First, let us understand what a budget deficit is. A budget deficit is a situation where the expenditure is more and the income is less. So in such a situation, the government aims to do the reverse. That is, it tries to reduce the expenditure and increase the income so as to reduce the budget deficit. Will reducing the revenue expenditure help? Yes. Here the expenditure is reduced, so this is correct. Coming to option number 2. Introducing new welfare schemes require funds, which will mean greater expenditure, and it will not help in reducing the deficit but will only add to it. So this becomes incorrect. Now, rationalizing subsidies or cutting down of subsidies will help in reducing the expenditure. So this is also correct. And the last option, reducing import duty, does not have any effect on expenditure, right? But it will result in lesser income in terms of import duties. So this is also incorrect. So the right answer to our question would be 1 and 3, which is option C. Now let us take up the fact of the day for today, which is the US strategy of Asia pivot. And this is from an article in the Hindu newspaper. What is the context? Antony Blinken, who is the US Secretary of State, is on his maiden trip across Southeast Asia. And with this visit, it seems that the current US administration, that is the Biden administration, is trying to reinforce the strategy of Asia pivot. So what exactly is the strategy of Asia pivot? In the year 2011, the Obama administration formally introduced an offensive strategy, and this strategy was designed to contain China's rise to power and was termed as Asia Pivot. So the entire premise of this particular strategy of regional balancing or pivot was that Asia was more important relative to other parts of the world. Why? Because Asia was home to rising proportion of global GDP and was the center of world economy. And now, with this visit by Antony Blinken, the Biden administration seems to be reinforcing this strategy. The Asia Pivot strategy will focus on soft power to conclude agreements that relate to various different areas, such as the maritime cooperation, education, biosecurity, trade, climate change, and many more. And it is also focused on advocating for human rights. Under this strategic approach, what Washington is trying to do is to seek to deepen ties with like minded Asian nations. But there are a few challenges for the US. Number one, China's trade with every country across the Indo Pacific region surpasses the trade that US has with the same countries. Number two, it is believed that US lacks a broad Asia economic strategy. Why? Because it is not a part of RCEP or Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and it is also not a part of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Besides, another major challenge is China's aggressive actions in the South China Sea. While the Biden administration is trying to reinforce Obama's Asia pivot strategy, Mr. Biden has made it clear that it would not prefer to force any of the Asian nations to choose between the US and the China as partners, be it in the economic sphere or for strategic cooperation. So now it is up to these countries in Southeast Asia to make a decision on this complex issue. That is all for today. Thank you for being with us. Keep watching and keep learning.